Richard, the Greek government is negotiating with its European partners over a possible financial rescue. Meanwhile, depositors in Greek banks are withdrawing their funds. How on earth are the Greek banks coping with this?
They're bravely putting up with quite a lot of outflows. Their outflows have, however, slowed. What's happened is that their usage of emergency liquidity, which is provided by their central bank, and also total funding from the European Central Bank has gone up. It's more or less doubled in the 4 months since the start of this year. So I think what's happened is that they've plugged the gap by relying on liquidity. But to get hold of that liquidity, they need to pledge collateral. And so far, so good. The European Central Bank has gone along with things. There haven't been huge discounts applied to this liquidity, but that liquidity could become finite because their collateral is not never-ending.
And what's the quality of that collateral like? How is the underlying loan book performing through all this?
The underlying loan books at these banks are beginning to deteriorate because of government policies. So although the pre-provision operating profit, so that's the operating profit before all the bad loan charges, that's in fairly good nick. Revenue is just about holding up and they're all cutting costs very nicely. But bad loans are creeping up, and it's because the government has given fairly clear signals that it wants there to be forbearance or debt forgiveness. So all banks are reporting an uptick in this because consumers are saying, well, maybe we'll just delay repaying loans until there's clarity from the government.
So what then is the best and worst case scenarios for these banks? What would be the very worst, first of all?
The very worst thing that happens is that Greece fails to strike a deal with its creditors, and in turn the European Central Bank decides that it will finally allow blood to gush on its hands from Greek banks, and liquidity will dry up, and when you don't have liquidity it soon becomes a solvency crisis. At the moment the Greek banks are in a liquidity crisis. That could become a solvency crisis, and then the banks will collapse.
And the best case scenario, what are they all hoping for?
Best case scenario is that there is an agreement between Greece and its creditors, and that the funds under the mattress typically at the moment, or that have been lurking in investment funds, start to flow back. Now they did this before. After the last crisis, the money came back in and things basically recovered fairly quickly. This time is slightly different. There's a different hue of government, a slightly more radical government. We don't know, but the general sense amongst the Greek bankers is, and they have good reason to be pessimistic, is cautiously upbeat optimism that the money will flow back in just in the nick of time.
That leaves the Greek banks nervously watching the political negotiations. Richard, thanks very much.